Today we're going to be talking about managing conflict in a productive way, because what often happens with conflict is it ends up being destructive and damaging the relationship, and then we shy away from it and the conflict doesn't go away. You know, oftentimes when I'm doing team building, one of the great ironies in my mind about team building is the way a team becomes cohesive is through conflict. Now that doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense overtly, but here's what happens, whether the team is 2 people or a group of people, is if I have to be nicey to Karen because I might offend her, and so I just always say things that I really don't mean, then what will happen is I'll never feel cohesive with Karen. Because here's what happens, if I can say to her, you know, the example is your very best friend in the whole world. If you can, that is somebody to whom you can say anything. And the fact that you can say anything to them is why you feel so cohesive with them. And it isn't necessarily that Karen will agree with me, but she'll try to understand it from my perspective. And so today, in talking about conflict, we're going to be talking about conflict in a way that increases cohesiveness and helps the relationship rather than damages the relationship. Now, there's also, in some of the strategies that we're going to be talking about, there's also a gender trend. That is, if you think about the kinds of games that boys grow up playing, they grow up playing basketball, baseball, football, cops, robbers, cowboys, and Indians, and war. All of which are team sports. And one of the things that's common to team sports is they are all competitive. It's me against you. It's us against them. And if you think about it, another term for competition is conflict. Boys grew up relating to other people through conflict. Girls grow up, on the other hand, tending to play one-on-one. And typically with my best friend. Kathy's my best friend. She can't be your best friend. And therefore, one of the things that's very important to girls is to avoid conflict because it could potentially damage the relationship. I mean, let me ask the women here. How many times as a kid do you suppose you were told to get along and be nice? Can you even fathom how many times you were told that? These are code words for do not get into any conflict. Therefore, in adulthood, men and women often manage conflict very differently. We'll be talking about some of the ways that we manage it differently. So let's talk about some of the basic strategies for managing conflict. One of them, and in my mind, the overarching strategy, is to avoid defensiveness. That is probably the most critical thing in managing conflict, is to avoid defensiveness, both on my part, if I'm the one who is, for instance, getting attacked, and on their part. Because if that other person becomes defensive, I'm going to end up spending 90% of my time trying to get around the defensiveness rather than dealing with the issue at hand. So here's a scenario. Imagine here I am in my office working away, and somebody comes into me and says, Pat, you're supposed to have that information due by 2 o'clock. I had to go to the meeting without it. As a result, everybody jumped on my case. I looked like a fool. Now, and let's say what happened is that I was going to get that information to that person by 2 o'clock, but at the last minute, my boss came in with a hot assignment from the CEO, gave it to me, I had to do it, and I didn't have any choice if I wanted to keep my job. So let's say that that's the scenario. Here is our natural tendency. Since we human beings, one of the things I believe about we human beings, basic premise in my mind, is that we human beings do things for reasons that make sense to us. Okay? Therefore, here's my natural tendency. This person is attacking me. They attack, so I defend. What are they now more likely to do? Attack even more. So I have to defend more. So they attack more. So I defend more. So what I am doing by defending myself, what I'm doing, without realizing it, is I am feeding the conflict. So instead of defending, what I need to do is to zip the lip and listen.